Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk some metal. Tonight, we're digging back into the mystery box of US singles, seeing some artifacts from bands who never quite found their fame and fortune in hard rock and heavy metal back in the day. But tonight, they finally get their 15 minutes of fame. We will chat about the bands a little bit, show the records, play some clips, and hey, maybe you'll find some interesting things you like, maybe some you won't. Either way, if you're ever out digging in your local record stores, record shows, or flea markets, you'll know what to keep an eye out for, which ones to spend your money on, and which ones to pass on if you don't enjoy them so much. Jumping right into it tonight, our first contestant is a very little known band called Caution. They made this one single in 1984. It pairs the tracks Want Me Bad with I Don't Know. Without further ado, let's check out what Caution sounds like. This will be Want Me Bad from their 1984 single. All right, there is Caution, tearing it up a little bit on a track called Want Me Bad. I love this song to death. Now, I admit it has some weirdness to it, but it has some really strong points too. First, it's got a really heavy guitar tone to it. The bass is really loud, so it has a lot of weight to it. It's a little bottom heavy, good, very crunchy kind of sound to it. The kind of layered vocals, I don't know if they double tracked them or if two guys are singing at the same time or what, but it kind of works. The fact that they bring in the cowbell for the chorus, I don't know if that's sheer idiocy or pure brilliance, but I love it either way. Just, kind of a, very cool, rough sounding song. Yeah, it's kind of amateurish. These guys are not going to be featured on American Idol or anything anytime soon. But I think they crush it on the track. I really like it. It's almost got a little bit of kind of a snotty, punky, at least attitude or vibe about it even, which just kind of further enhances the charm of the song. Dig it quite a bit. Let's see if the flip side is as good. So the flip side features a song called I Don't Know. Here's a clip.
I don't know what you're doing to me. All this craziness, I just want to be free from all your conning, your lying, your cheating, you're deceiving me. And your reason for hurting me, I just can't see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Just the other day after we said goodbye, I turned the corner, stopped, not really knowing why. My eyes held the side I did not wish to see. So close to you, a man, it wasn't known to me.
All right, there is I Don't Know. That song is still pretty heavy, pretty rumbly, like that part. I don't care for the chorus in that. The I don't know, could have done without that part. But musically, the rest of the song is still pretty tight, still pretty heavy. I can definitely dig it. Like this single a lot. I don't have a lot to say about it otherwise because I don't know much about the band. I don't find much about them in some of the sources I go look at. Discogs basically says caution. This single, 1984, no place of origin listed for the band or anything else. Only clue for location is it does say it was recorded at a location in New Hampshire. Is this a sort of heavy band from New Hampshire? Maybe, but being New England, those are very small states. It would be pretty easy for a band from Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island to end up in a recording studio in New Hampshire also. So maybe New Hampshire, maybe though, if we want to have a little more confidence, we could say somewhere in the New England area seems likely for the band's origin. Don't know anything else about the label or the band. The single seems to be really rare. No copies are listed as having been sold on Discogs. Discogs has that little thing where, like, it says, how many people have it versus want it. 2 people have it in their collection, supposedly, and 38 want it. I don't really put a lot of stock in those numbers because anybody can claim they have an album. So what does that really mean? And the want list, too, that's just maybe the number of people who bothered. Oh, I don't know what that is. I'll click it and add it, as a want. It doesn't mean a lot of people are serious looking for it. And there's probably a lot of people who look for a record who never click that button on Discogs. I've only seen this come up for sale once, and that was over a decade ago in an auction with a bunch of sort of obscure indie private press singles. I lost the auction. I bid more than I probably should have for the record because I really liked, they had sound clips with the auction, and I really, really liked, especially that Want Me Bad track. Bid a lot, came in second. I knew the person I was bidding against, and I knew I had almost no chance of winning. So, bummer. The seller actually contacted me after the auction and was like, hey, if you're interested, I do have one other copy of the Caution single. I'm happy with your bid if you want it. And it's like, okay, yes, please, we'll take that. So even though I lost the auction, I did get a copy from that seller. Caution, 1984. Excellent single. Again, some people may hear it and think, it's too amateurish, too rough around the edges. Okay, fair enough. I can really dig that heavy sound on that one. Moving on to band number 2 tonight. We have a 4-track EP by a California band called Prototype. The EP is titled One of a Kind. Kind of a simple cover design, but at least a little bit will catch the eye. It's the kind of thing you look at as like, it could go in a lot of different directions musically. So let's find out which direction it goes into. I won't play clips from all 4 songs, but we'll start off with a clip of, the title track. Here's Prototype. This is from 1985, and doing a song called One of a Kind. right, there's a sample of One of a Kind by California's Prototype from 1985. Here's a band that's obviously working maybe a little bit more towards, sort of a pomp rock, AOR sound to an extent. The music still has, some heaviness to it. Decent vocals, obviously, sort of, big triumphant keyboards going on there as well. Not all the songs on the EP are, quite that sort of pomp rock sounding. It's not a bad sound. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I actually rather like the song, but some of them are a little heavier. Let's jump to a clip for one of the other tracks. This will be Can't You See from the second side of the EP.
Well, everyone's asking me what to do. All I'm saying is, all up to you. I can't tell you what it's all about. No easy answers, as you'll find out. Can't you see? Stand to me. Can't you see? Can't you see? Stand to me. Can't you see? You talk about your problems.
All right, so there's a sample of Can't You See? That song's a little heavier, a little rumblier. It still has, some very 80s sounding, keyboards going on in the background. So sounds a little dated. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent EP, though. It's not going to appeal to folks who only want true metal thrashing mad, bang your heads upon the stage kind of, stuff. But if you don't mind bands going in a little bit more of that, slightly, arena rock kind of direction, still having a big sound, and still, having a little bit of heft to them, Prototype's pretty cool. Only record they made, this one 4-track, 7-inch EP from 1985. As you saw, it came with an insert with pictures and lyrics. And there was an Easter egg on the band lineup. If you haven't caught it yet, feel free to pause the video and back up and see if you can figure it out. If you can, you may add 10 points to your True Metal Street Cred score if you recognized the keyboardist. This picture up here, this fellow. We have Michael John Smith. That name, if it rings a bell, again, good for you. You get 10 points today. Some of you will recognize Michael John Smith as the vocalist on Savage Grace's Master of Disguise album. There he is in the middle of the band picture. Only album he sang on. And in Prototype, he's playing keyboards and doing backing vocals. He's not the lead vocalist. Smith was probably the best vocalist Savage Grace ever had. Really good singer. He sounds great on this album. This album is marred by a pretty bad production, but it can't hide the fact that, he was a great singer. The one Savage Grace album and the Prototype single are the only two things he ever played on. He just did not pursue a career in music, and both of these came out around 85, so his time in music was relatively short-lived. Kind of a shame. If he had hooked up with another band where he could have been back behind the microphone, they could have put out something really fantastic. So yeah, this is the kind of thing that makes looking through these old singles really fun. You have, this, kind of strange, stadium arena rock kind of sounding 7-inch EP from 1985 that no one's ever heard of. And the band went nowhere, sadly. But within their ranks, there's a hidden picture of a lead vocalist from Savage Grace who was part of that band at the time. Pretty cool, in my opinion. All right, we've got one last entry. Moving on from a Prototype. Our last band tonight comes from Salt Lake City, Utah, which is not exactly what we would consider fertile ground for heavy metal music, although there have been some good bands in recent years. Caladan Brood, Visigoth. There's a group of folks out there making some really excellent heavy metal these days. But for this one, we're going back to 1986. It's a band called Crisis, and they made a single with the tracks Keep Fighting and Kick It Out. So let's check out some clips and see what Crisis sounded like. Let's start with a clip from the song Keep Fighting from the 1986 Crisis single, Out of Utah. All right, there's Crisis absolutely nailing it on a track called Keep Fighting. This is exactly what you're hoping to hear when you buy one of these unknown singles from the early mid-80s US metal scene. Great guitar, strong vocals, kind of a driving beat to it. Absolutely great. Let's see how the flip side handles. This will be Kick It Out, again from Utah's Crisis. All right, so yeah, flip side not bad either. A little slower, more of a pacey kind of track, but still same raw guitar tone, catchy, solid song. Both tracks on here are good. This is no one side killer, one side filler kind of single. This one has two really good tracks on it, and kind of speaks to the fact that it's always been a pretty highly collectible piece for folks that are into mid '80s, US metal singles. Now, Crisis did get some other things released. This is not a band that's surrounded in mystery and only released one single somewhere in New England, the way Caution was. Crisis had an EP come out in '84 called Armed to the Teeth. You see this for sale from time to time. Kind of a very typical, mid '80s cover. Let's, find a girl, put her in lingerie, and in this case, have her hold weapons. Okay. They also, though, released a full album, and I believe the album was the year after the single. Double checking over here on the mothership. Yeah, the single was '85, and then they did a Kick It Out album in 1986. And the band also lasted for quite a while, but went through several name changes. I don't remember all the names they went by over time. 440 was one of them, just 440. But yeah, they were still playing music up throughout at least around the year 2000, just under different names. I haven't heard a lot of music from those eras, so can't speak about it in depth. What I'm showing here is a compilation that came out in 2010 that has the Armed to the Teeth EP, the Kick It Out album, and also a lot of demo tracks from different eras of the band. This was put out on Shadow Kingdom. Picture of the band there on the back as well. That's a pretty nice 2 CD set. I haven't played it in quite a while, so a little rusty on it, but yep, you have more action pictures going on in the background. As I mentioned, the single's always been pretty collectible and at times will sell for very high prices. If you look it up on Discogs, it looks like a very cheap single. There's, two copies that have sold. I think one was $7 and one was $12. And frankly, those are extremely good prices for that single. This is one I've seen sell for hundreds of dollars on more than one occasion. For a very long time, the single was impossible to find. It was considered one of those things where there's just a handful of copies that have ever turned up. However, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, one of the band members surfaced and had some copies. I have no idea how many, but those did start getting out into circulation. It's actually how I got my copy. It was a single I really liked, had heard MP3s of it. So I was keeping an eye on all the normal channels, hoping to find a copy one day. And just with a random internet search, I stumbled upon this guy. I don't remember if he had a blog post or what. It may have been a Blogspot connection, but it's like, well, okay, I'll go down that rabbit hole. And it turned out that, yeah, it actually was one of the band members. Yeah, I just sent him a quick message, hey, really, enjoyed, the single y'all put out. Was trying to find a copy of it. And actually wrote back. He was really nice. He's like, I do have a few copies of that left. Offered to sell me one for a reasonable price. So yeah, I bought it. And when he sent it, he also included a copy of this, which this had either just come out, or I actually think it was about to come out, that, he had gotten copies from the label, but it hadn't been officially released just yet. So he's like, hey, thanks so much for, tracking me down, and glad I had a copy of the single for you. And, here's, the rest of our catalog in case you haven't, gotten a chance to hear it. Because when I opened up, it's like, holy crap, that's really cool. I'd seen pictures of this, but I never had got a copy. It's like, I didn't know they had a compilation or anthology out. And so when I kind of remember looking into it, it's like, oh, it's about to get released. I kept up with Shadow Kingdom releases back then. And so I think this was on their, about to come out, upcoming release schedule. So maybe the Crisis single has come down some in price. I don't know how many copies he sold. May have been enough to kind of saturate the market and bring prices down. But I know even years after that, I would see copies like on eBay still go for over $100 sometimes. So kudos to the two folks who got those Discogs copies, for literally just a handful of dollars. Really good purchase. It does go to show that you have to be careful using Discogs as a price guide. Sometimes things are slipping below the radar, especially when there's only one or two copies out there. It can work in reverse too. Sometimes you see a record sell for a ridiculous price, and everybody starts thinking, oh, that record's worth, $900 because, well, here's a copy that's sold for $900. That doesn't mean there's anybody else out there who's going to pay anything even close to $900 for that record. It may have just been the right day and the right time for that one person who was desperate to get a copy of that record and had $900 to burn. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. We've heard some cool, raw, heavy tracks from the mystery band Caution. We've checked out Prototype featuring John Michael Smith. And we've also checked out the very cool Crisis single. Now, let's talk metal in the comments down below. Does anybody know anything about Caution? Be cool to at least just know, like, what state they were from. Was it New Hampshire? Was it one of the other New England states? Did they actually travel to New Hampshire for some reason? I can't imagine they did, but who knows? If you have any information about Caution, any thoughts on the other material from Crisis? Again, I'm a little rusty, so I'm not going to comment on the EP or the album, but Crisis fans, here's your chance to sing the praises of the band. And same, if anybody has other information about Prototype, good chance to get that out there for folks as well. Until next time, everybody, take care. And as always, keep banging your head.